Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. I'm particularly pleased to review this book on bank failure, which has come to us from Oxford University Press. Elizabeth wrote the main review and we had a long discussion about this book because I think it's a very important book, and please have a look at our review, which is in the journals and on the web. It's Lessons from Lehman Brothers, and it's been edited by Dennis Faber and Niels Vermunt. The book's available, as I say, from OUP, and we've given it a title for our book review, Too Big to Fail. Not if your name's Lehman Brothers, and here's a legal text that tells the full story, and that's exactly what it does, and I think it does it very well indeed. There's the front of the book, and there's the spine. There's nothing on the back of the book itself, but let's just look at it. It's a hardback, you can see that nice green cover. And you've got under 400 pages. You can see the index there. I'll just open it up a bit. The index, you can see, is by paragraph numbering, not page numbering, paragraph numbering, so you should be able to find things. Very much the house style of OUP. This book, there's the start of the index. You can see how it's structured. Then the book itself, concluding remarks, of course, always very useful to have. The end of a chapter, paragraph numbering, and then you've got where necessary, footnoting. Let's go in. You see the footnoting, again the paragraph numbering in the margins to find things pretty quickly, because it's a good book. This one to read. It's not a difficult book to read either. I was concerned it might be difficult, but it isn't. There's the information about OUP there, and then there's a foreword by Michael Briggs, Right Honourable Lord Justice Briggs, who gives a very useful statement on the book. Then there's a preface looking at the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Is a tale that seems fictitious and unreal in modern history, is how it starts. And then we go on from there. And then you've got the contents sections there. And then after that, you've got the tables of cases, which are quite useful to see, a lot of cases. Then the table of legislation itself. And then after that, you've got a little break there with international instruments and so on at the end of the legislation, so it covers statutes and other things. Then you've got the list of contributors, a lot of people involved in this book, some of whom you will know. The names will be known to a number of people. Then it starts off part one in the United States, and then you've got the rise and fall of Lehman Brothers, and it starts off setting out the introduction. And of course, as I say, you've got a lot of footnoting to justify all the points being made all the way through. A very good book indeed, and one that's absolutely fundamental for anybody involved in banking law, the banking industry. This is not just a book for lawyers, it's much wider than that, I think. And OUP are to be congratulated for producing it. Now, this is what Elizabeth and I say. Elizabeth, as I say, wrote most of this review, and it's a first-class review. Of course, all her books are. But this one's particularly important. And what we say is this. You might say that the downfall of Lehman Brothers in 2008 was meteoric. Plunging from the stratosphere of success, recorded in January of that year, it crashed to earth 8 months later. It was too big to fail, but it did. The repercussions were far-reaching and generated what almost became a worldwide economic catastrophe. The reason why, or the reasons why, being many and manifold, have resulted in much comment and analysis over the years, including latterly this recently published and most impressive legal text from OUP. So surely bank failure will become the definitive work of reference on this vexed subject. Just hope we don't have any more. But at the moment, this is what we've got as some lessons to be learned. And as a pivotal point in legal as well as economic history, the Lehman Brothers disaster makes riveting reading, especially if you happen to be a lawyer. And page after page, this volume reveals the bewildering mixed signals confusion that preceded the catastrophic failure of this apparently unassailable bank. Never use the word unassailable. It's always doomed to failure, because it was seen as an unassailable bank, which ranked fourth behind Goldman Sachs, Blackstone and Morgan Stanley, and ahead of JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch, Citi, Lazard, Credit Suisse and UBS. And in January 2008, its stock reached a high of $65.73 per share. 8 months later, its share price plummeted to $4, a decline of almost 95%. One of the key questions that emerges from this analysis is, where were the regulators? Turns out there were several of them, including the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the FRBNY, and a number of others, and in addition to those, of course, the European Union. Interestingly, the major investment banks preferred the SEC regulation to EU regulation, and I wonder why. Makes you think, bearing in mind what we're going through in the middle of 2017 with Brexit, a general election, and a very substantial change on the continent of Europe. Now, the crucial point made here in this book was that no one agency was clearly in charge. We've heard this story before, of course. It seems, for example, that the FRBYN, according to the authors, did not take steps to ensure that the SEC had the same information it had about the over-reporting of Lehman's liquidity pool. The more simple-minded amongst us, who do not speak bank speak, will interpret this to mean that Lehman's had a lot less money than it said it did. And I'm afraid we've heard that one before as well. Now, as Lehman Brothers was a truly global institution with global reach and influence, this book is divided into three parts under three headings: the United States, the United Kingdom and Europe. And there are references to other regions, particularly those in Asia. Some litigation is still pending, say the authors, who also remark that the sums at stake and the legal questions that had to be addressed were unprecedented in terms of scope and complexity. And this must be one of the few legal texts around that reads almost like a medieval cautionary tale, albeit a detailed and protracted one based on thorough and detailed research, and also the personal experience and familiarity with the Lehman Brothers matter on the part of the majority of the book's 22 contributors, who include main insiders and third-party experts. Please also note the foreword from Lord Justice Briggs, whose 2012 Denning lecture on the Lehman collapse has been included in part 2. The authors express the hope that the book will be of interest to policymakers, practitioners, academics and students, and one must add, anyone involved in any aspect of financial services. And as I said at the beginning, and Elizabeth reinforced that here, this is something which has got a much wider readership. And we've got to learn from these lessons. Whether we do or not is another matter, but we hope we will. The publication date is cited at 2017. Let's just have one quick look at the book again. There's the front and the spine. There's nothing, as I say, on the back. Just opening it in the middle. Here we go. We've got a flow chart, actually, a little flow chart there. That shows you respective rights of parties before use. This is prime broker hypothecation, sorry. There we go. A bit of an interesting word. Rehypothecation. Now, again, we do have some interesting words in the financial world. Extended liens, another little word. We do know what liens is in the legal profession, but there are a lot of very interesting points that are made in the book. You can see the structure. You've got paragraph numbering, and you've got of course, the footnoting, which is extremely helpful. And as I say, at the back, you do have some conclusions, of course, in the towards the end of the book about what has happened. And those conclusions really are bringing together some of the chapters because of the way in which the book is actually structured. So you'll see, when you look at the actual detail of the contents, you'll find there's effectively a conclusion for each of the chapters. Well, thank you very much to Dennis Faber and Niels Vermunt and all the contributors for what I think is a first-class book. And as I've said before, do have a look at our review on the web and in the journals. Bye bye for now. Bye.